Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Thanks so much for listening. Linda and I have an amazing episode to share with you today. This is a recording of a recent virtual event that we did with the wonderful Jean Rivers. If you've never heard Jean before, you are going to be in for a real treat. And if you have, I can promise you that you will probably still take pages of notes. He drops a ton of nuggets on growing your business in a shift, what it looks like to build a small team from a solo agent. So many great takeaways, and we just hope that you enjoyed today. Please don't forget to like and review and rate us on the platform that you listen to our podcast on. It was so great to see so many of you in Austin last week that we got to interact with. We're so grateful for all of our listeners, and we hope you enjoy the episode. I say this every time, but Jean, I really am not kidding. You always are the most requested speaker that we have when we poll our people. So thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure. You and I have been trying to put this little thing together for quite a while, and calendar is always my biggest challenge, but I'm honored to be here. My pleasure.
Yes, it always is. But yes, we are very honored to have you. So I'm not going to talk a lot because I want you guys to hear from Jean. And I know many of you, some of you have heard him before, some of you may not have, but be prepared to take notes upon notes upon notes. I was just sharing with Jean right before we let you guys in the room, we have over 70% of realtors have not been through a shift. And so the reason we've been wanting to do this every month is to really arm you guys with as much information, data, as much just advice and help from people who have been through shifts, so that you can thrive and take market share as we enter a shift. And not that I think last month we talked about there being a big difference between a shift and a crash. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Jean, too. But just if you guys have questions, please fill them in the chat. And if you can and you are able, please turn on your cameras. It's so much easier for our speakers when they can see you and interact. And I'm sitting outside, and if I can turn mine on here, you guys can too. So make sure you turn your cameras on. Jean, thank you for being here again. How many shifts have you been through?
Good Lord. I've been in this 33 years. I've been through 2 major ones and several small ones. And shifts can actually be local. They don't have to be, national in order to hit you. You can have a big plant shut down. You can have, flooding. You can have in Florida, hurricanes. We've been shifted with hurricanes, literally. We had a big one in Panama City Beach a few years back, and the entire market changed and sales weren't being made at all for 3 to 6 months. So I've been in a lot of shifts, big ones and small ones.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on kind of what we're headed for right now?
I think we're headed for something nobody's ever been through. That's what I think we're heading for. And I don't mean that in a scary way. I just think we all need to understand there has never been a time in the history of the world where so many events are happening all at the same time. And it's tough. I think you all need to have our leaders in your prayers, because people are trying to make the best decisions for this country possible with all these elements that nobody's ever dealt with. And it's just not a simple thing. However, there are a couple of big overriding things, and all the shifts that I've been through, there's one thing that I'm really clear about. People will continue to buy and sell and rent real estate.
Yeah.
And there's no question about it. Sometimes there's more people moving, sometimes there's less people moving, but there are always people moving. And as the shift book says, I think the biggest element about the shift book right now is you better be finding the motivated.
Yep.
There are 3 kinds of people out there all the time, but it's really pronounced right now. There are people that are not moving, and that's the bulk of them. They're not moving. They're not thinking about moving. They're not moving. Then there's people that might move. And then there's people that will move. And that's it. You need to stop spending time on people that are not moving and start spending time on people that might move and people that will move. When Shift says find the motivated, They mean people that will move. They're gonna move. They're having a baby. It's their third. They have a 3-bedroom house. They're moving. You have people that are getting a divorce. They're moving. You have people that are getting a job reload. They're moving. You get people that are unfortunately laid off. They're moving. There are a lot of people that are going to be moving. You need to find those people. But there's also a lot of people who might move, but they're nervous. And this has been talked about literally in the last 14 days about the Consumer Confidence Index. University of Michigan does it. The United States government does it. Those are two of the most prominent consumer confidence indexes. And those indexes have the most correlation to people moving of all things, more than interest rates, more than the economy. It is about how people feel about their future that really influences whether they're going to move or not. And you, as a professional realtor, your role is to help people that might move, the issues that are keeping them from moving, and give them confidence about whether they should actually sell and or buy real estate. And it boils down to, do you have confidence? Do you believe this is a good time to buy or sell? And if you do, can you quantify that? And if you can, then are you messaging that to your Met database at a very high level? People are hearing on the news that the real estate market continues to be impacted by the high interest rates. Excuse me. Those of you that have never seen a shift probably think an interest rate over 4% is god awful high. We are actually below the 30-year normal interest rate on housing. Rates aren't low or high, they're normal. They're normal. And yet consumers hear the rates are so high. That's not true. People also hear that prices are high. Prices are high. You know what, Gary, every family reunion, which he did this year again, and every mega camp, which we're about to see again, he and Jay will stand up there and they'll just parade these charts and graphs in front of us so that we understand what's going on. And you need to make sure your Met database also understands what's going on. Last family reunion, one of the charts they showed was the interest rate chart that I just talked about. They showed you where the normal line for rates are and where rates were at the time of family reunion. They're below the average rate. That chart you should have sent out as a drip to your Met database. Contrary to what you hear about interest rates, here's a look at the true nature of home mortgage interest rates over time. Rates are actually still very, very good. They also showed the pricing line, and they showed that we hit a peak in 2005, and then we had a collapse, and then we slowly started to crawl out of that collapse from 2008 moving to today. And if you recall, that chart had a period where it went into a 4% rate below the 30-year 4% rate. And for years, literally for 4 years at family reunion and mega camp, Gary and Jay would say, it appears that the market has reset pricing on a new 4% trend line. And that's what everybody thought for several years. And guess what? For the last 3 years, the trend line accelerated and moved up, and where prices were at the end of 2021 was exactly where they would have been at 4% had it not been interrupted by a giant rise and by a giant collapse. So there's a strong argument that prices actually have finally recovered from the big collapse in 07, 08, 09. Prices are normal. And that's not just an opinion. If you look at the affordability index, despite the high prices at the end of the year, housing affordability was quite strong relative to the average income of American family households. So there's not a lot of argument for prices are going to erode and collapse. There's not a lot of argument for that. And there's still demand. There is still demand, but instead of getting, 14 contracts in 1 hour after listing a property, that's gone bye-bye. And around the country, I talk to people all around the country every single week. And all around the country, boards are looking like normal activity. Properties are going on the market, and those 70%, Dana, that you're focused on have never seen a 90-day real estate cycle. They don't understand it might take a couple of months to sell a property, another couple of months to close it out. You got 4 months into the deal, and you may only get one offer. And we're back to one of the most important things to remember, which is in a normative market, your first offer is going to be your best offer most likely, and you're not going to get it for weeks. And when you finally get it, you better move your sellers off their you know what's to make that deal work. This is also a time of, if you do get showings and you're not getting offers, you need to look hard at what's going on. If you get 10 showings, you need to look and see if any of those are second showings. And if you've got 10 showings and no offers and no second showings, you're in the game, but you're on the losing end. You're number 8 or 9 on the list of what people would buy in that given area for that given price for that given size. And in that area, you need to realize you need to have a price change. And this is not anything really new. It's in our pre-listing packages, and it's been there for multiple shifts. If you have 10 showings and no offers, you need to lower your price. That's if there were no repeat showings. If there's a repeat showing, you need to follow up and talk to your seller about making a seller offer to the buyer that came back to your house, because that person might be a candidate to buy it. So those of you who've never done seller offers to a buyer, you need to learn and think about making a seller offer if you get repeat showings. You also need to understand that if you have no activity, you need to lower the price. And I mean, rather quickly, lower the price. I was talking this morning to someone who had a $1.1 million listing. The seller was motivated to sell. What makes a seller ultimately? They sell. So this seller agreed. The agent told him, we need to take calculated price reductions until we find the market, meaning activity. They had no showings in 2 weeks at 1.1 million since they launched the property. So what they did was they started doing a $50,000 price reduction and said they were going to keep lowering it $50,000 until they found the market. They lowered the price every couple of days, and it finally sold for $875. But when they found the market, they instantly got a bunch of showings, and out of that, one full price offer came. And you got to understand, in the country, in cities, in areas, the markets are not all even. Some markets are really tough. You're going to have to dig deep. The seller's going to have to drop down in order to find the market. But in others, in most markets around the country right now, if you got property at 300 or lower, there's a solid market for that property, most likely. And it won't take a lot of work and a lot of digging. But anyway, I'm kind of talking about where I think things are. You turned me on. Let me slow down in case you want to talk about something.
No, this is great. I've already taken half a page of notes. What you're saying is reminding me of what Gary keeps telling us, which is we are moving from a speed-based market to a skill-based market.
Yeah.
And that's language that we've been using in our market centers a lot lately. So will you talk a little bit about that? And you mentioned some things, but for realtors who've never been through a shift, what does that mean, skill-based market? And what are the skills that they need? Like, what are the things that they have to master?
Well, I think the most important things to master, and this will come as no shock to anybody, are the quote basics, the basics. And the basics are the fundamental use of collateral materials and 4 presentations. Those are the basics. And collateral materials are 47 things to get your home ready to sell, a seller concern sheet, a pre-listing package for a seller, pre-listing package for a buyer. You're working with both buyers and sellers. They both need to be educated. A lot of the stuff we were already talking about is a part of the education. Your pre-listing package for a seller should have about 8 pages plus or minus about the process of selling. You will say, if you hire me, here's what's going to happen. Step 1, step 2, take it all the way to the closing table. The process, if you don't have a pre-listing package with that in it, the process of you building that is going to educate you about your own process, where you have gaps, what you're not thinking through, where you don't provide value. And I'm real serious about that. You'll understand more about your own business if you try to document the business that you think you have, and you'll actually improve it. So a seller should read that, those steps you're going to take over 8 pages and think, this is impressive. The last 2 times we sold, some of these things weren't done, and I like what this agent's offering me. That is your value proposition. Don't be afraid of documenting it. Document it. And if you're not happy with it, then improve it, add to your steps. Then there ought to be about 8 pages, 10 pages of charts and graphs about the market. The seller needs to clearly understand the market that they're in. And you either educate them ahead of the meeting, or you spend your time at the meeting running your mouth trying to educate them. And the problem with that is the same information, but if I'm sitting in front of you and you're trying to tell me the market has shifted, I'm not going to get multiple offers. I'm not going to get over list price. In fact, I might not get the price I thought I was going to get. I don't like what you're telling me, and I'm going to have doubt in what you're telling me. But if I looked at 8 or 10 pages of charts and graphs with 12-month histories of inventories, list to sale price ratios, days on market, and I see everything is moving in the buyer's favor and away from the seller's favor, if I see those key metrics, it becomes evidence. And they'll sit there, if they're a couple, they'll sit there, they'll look at it, they'll talk about it, they'll interpret the data, and they'll come to a realization about it. And then when you sit in front of them, it boils down to a script. Miss Johnson, did you review the materials in the pre-listing package we dropped off at your house? You did? Did you fill out the forms that were included in that pre-listing package? Wonderful. Let me go over those forms. Let me have them right now. Now, if you give people forms to fill out after they've read your materials, you're going to have an educated seller, and it'll be a much more powerful and meaningful meeting, and you'll have less time at the table and higher conversion rates. You've got to educate people prior to asking for the business. So these basics, Dana, in general, NAR, 80% don't do them anyway. 80% of realtors don't use pre-listing materials. They don't give people forms to fill out. And that literally using written tools is what separates the real pros from everybody else. People that just use their mouth can be a good person and a good realtor, but it does not mean they're going to become dominant in the marketplace. The people that become dominant are more professional, more thorough, explain things in great detail to people, and people just think these people are cut above everybody else. And that's really about mastering the fundamentals and explaining the fundamentals in written materials that you give to buyers and sellers you want to do business with. So in the market centers, Dana, it boils down to, are you taking training? And I don't know about your market centers, Dana. I've got offices across North Florida, and I can tell you the majority of my agents aren't taking training on a regular and consistent basis. But we are now shifting in our offices to a morning huddle for the whole office, where it's just a Zoom call and all the agents get on, and we're encouraging #1 agent all the way down to the newest licensee who's the ink still wet on their license, that they get on those morning huddles and get their mindset right and get some data points and get some action plans, and in 25 minutes get to work and do it over and over and over again. You've got people attending this when lots of other people could be attending this. The real issue is, if you're attending and you're taking notes, like I see Dana taking notes, and then you implement, you will take market share from all realtors, from KW realtors, from Coldwell Banker realtors, because the people that take training consistently and implement what they learn slowly and steadily climb up the ladder on top of agents who won't take training or implement. Training matters. And I believe that 110%.
Gene, don't you think that's why Gary always says during a shift, the market share that you lose, you'll never get back, and the market share that you gain, you'll keep forever? And I think people hear that and they like let it go in one ear and out the other. But I'm like, want to shake them because I'm like, no, it's so true.
Yeah. No, when it's easy to sell houses, everybody sells houses. The minute it becomes skill-based, which you mentioned, skill-based literally means implementation of training systems and tools. And if you got a bigger business, hiring people. Those three things that we call leverage, systems, tools, and people, that is it. Implementation of those is what separates the people who take market share from the people who lose market share. And right now, a lot of top agents are not on track for the goals they set in January for this year. But what they're tracking is, where is the market moving downward and where are we moving relative to the market? And your goal should always be to be beating the market. In other words, whatever the board stats are, if the board's down 10% in closed units, you don't want to be down more than 4 or 5% in closed units. Just continue to outpace the market. And you literally are taking market share when you do that. And if you have a group of agents in your market centers that are doing that, then your market center is going to outpace the market, right? And as a market center owner, that's what I want the market center to do. But I can't do that. What I can do is help the agents do that. And if the agents do that, boom, 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 boom. That's where we are. And the real issue in a downturn is not about continue to hit the high goals you set last year for this year, or continue to add 15 or 20% to your units sold every year. That's not the point. The point is to beat the market. That's the point. Beat the market. The good news is there was so much appreciation in the last 3 years, Dana. There's a lot of people that are not doing the units they tried to set, but they're close to the gross commission income.
Their volume's through the roof.
That's right. The volume's good. The volume's on track, but they're 25% off on the units. And that is a problem. I'm not saying it's okay. The unit is where you really take market share. Take more units.
Gene, we talk a little bit about database touches. We've always heard 36 touch, 36 touch, 36 touch. And I heard Gary say in the top 100 last month, 252 was the average annual touch now of the top 100. And I'm going to venture to say we have a lot of agents that aren't even hitting the 36 touch.
No, they're not. They're not using command like they could be using command. I mean, it's all set there. Every month, you need to think about lead generation. That's what we're talking about here. And the number one problem in lead generation, is consistency. That is the number one problem. We have taught forever and in several KW classes, Dana, that you should do 3 hours of lead generation in the morning, 5 days a week. I don't think that's wrong at all as a paradigm, but if you're a busy agent, pragmatically, you're not going to be able to do that. You can't tell all buyers, hey, I'm busy every morning, 5 days a week. I'll never be able to work with you in the morning. You can't do that. So pragmatically, it doesn't work. But what matters is that you do those hours of lead generation. So if you think about being consistent with lead generation, it'll be built around a 30-day wheel. There are things you'll do once a month, things you'll do twice a month, things you'll do weekly, and things you'll do daily. And those things, whatever those things are what you have to have rolling every single month. And I'm addressing your comment about the 36 and now it's 200 plus, right? You need to understand the backbone to your Met database will be a real estate report card the first week of the month, second, third, fourth day of the month. You should send out a real estate report card to your entire sphere. If you've got a farm, you have to do that too, but the farm is targeted just to the farm. But if you've got Met database, past clients and sphere, they live all over the place. So you have to do basically a board of realtors data report card, but you send out that report card every 30 days. And then the next week you send out a seller message. And then 2 weeks later, the fourth week, you send out a buyer message. So every week through email, you should be sending out a report card, followed by a seller message. 2 weeks later, a buyer message. If you just did that, Dana, that's a 36 touch without anything else, right? And then you need to think about, what are you doing weekly? And what you should be doing weekly is getting in front of groups of people. Now, there's a loose definition for that. There are a lot of things that qualify. If you commit to doing an open house once a week during the weekday, a twilight open, and you commit to doing an open once a weekend, so 2 open houses a week. And if that twilight open house on Thursday nights and that Sunday open house or that Saturday open house together, if you get 15, 20, 25 people, you stood in front of a group of 25 people, strangers. And what's powerful about that is there's no question, there's some level of motivation among 25 people who attend open houses. And that can be an extremely productive activity if you do it week after week after week. If you have a geographic farm, Dana, a lot of people won't do this, but this is what separates the winners from the losers. You need to be door knocking that farm. The people who dominate in a geographic farm have one mindset that very few agents ever do. And that mindset is, I will meet every homeowner in my farm. I will start a relationship with every single homeowner on their front porch. I don't want to do it through the phone. I want them to see me in their neighborhood. I am the neighborhood real estate expert. I live in your neighborhood. I don't mean you really live in the neighborhood. You might, but you don't have to. But you're in that neighborhood every single week, visible to every homeowner. So if you have 500 homes, you should door knock 50 doors. And again, you need to mix that up. You need to do 1 or 2 Thursday nights at dinner time, and then you need to do Saturday mornings. But if you do 50, and I've done this for years, you can do 50 in an hour to hour and a half tops. But if you do 50 doors every week, in 10 weeks, you've done all 500, and then it starts all over again. And you just keep plowing through it. That will lead to business like you can't believe, because nobody's ever seen a realtor work that hard. And the commitment to the neighborhood, to be a neighborhood farm expert. So that's groups of people. And then every day you need to talk to people. Every day you need to talk to people. And by the way, you can do groups of people. My group of people is not just my farm. For me personally, it was my Rotary Club, 250 members. I go there once a week, eat rubber chicken and banquet beans, and I sit there. By the way, here's the strategy when you're in clubs. Do not ever talk about real estate, ever. They know who you are. They know what you do. Let it come to you, baby. I just sit at that 8 top eating my rubber chicken and banquet beans, and I'm talking about sports and the weather, and I'm watching that person that keeps glancing at me, and finally they say, so, Jane, tell us how about that real estate market? What's going on there? Here's the script. Why do you ask? Well, I'm just curious. About what? Now, I've been in this club for 2 decades. And a lot of people at the table, they know what's happening. They just start smiling and just kind of watch what plays out. I'll bet, and I do assumptive closes because I don't like to waste time. I'll bet you're curious about what your home is worth. Tell you what, when Rotary's over, I'll walk you out to your car and we'll talk. And if they don't say no, then I know I got a live one. And that's it. But my point is, you get inside groups of people, you press the flesh, you're going to do business if you simply get off your butt and get in front of groups of people.
Gene, I've been like smiling the whole time because I'm just remembering I just was with a large group of people before this weekend and over the weekend, and we were talking about 2 different conversations. One, we were talking about open houses. Somebody said, I'm a newer agent. I have like $1.5 million pending right now, but I have nothing after that. And I don't know what else to do. And I said, work an open house 2 times a week, every week for as long as you can, because they're back. we can do that now. And they said, really, that many times? And I said, I worked an open house every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the first 5 years that I was in real estate, unless I like was dying of the flu or something. It was just what we did to get business.
Yeah.
And then the next thing about that, I was laughing. One of my friends was in Charleston, and they were saying they were wanting to buy a second home there. And I said, well, let's just go door knock. And a girl was with us that's only had her license like a year, and she started cracking up. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? And she's like, would you really? I said, yeah, that's all we used to do was door knock all weekend long, every weekend. And so I think sometimes people think that those are like, it's something funny, but that's how we built business. I mean, that's what we did.
Well, the fundamental principle is the backbone of bold. If you talk to more people, you'll do more business. And there is nothing at all incorrect about that assumption. That is exactly the truth. If you talk to more people, you'll do more business. That's why you have to have a mindset of lead gen should not be one by one by one, but it'll be that, but it should also be groups. Let me spend an hour with 200 people. Let me spend another hour with another 200 people. Let me do it again. Let me do it again. Rebecca and I built our business. I think you know this. We started our real estate career in Miami, and we lost everything in Hurricane Andrew. We relocated up to North Florida. In 4 years, we had learned the basics of the business really well. So we restarted up in a new community, and we targeted 2 high turnover neighborhoods. And we went in and started door knocking the neighborhood. There were agents in there. It was high turnover. There were agents in there that had most of the listings, and they did not door knock the neighborhood. And in 6 months, we had more listings than those agents who dominated. And they didn't understand what happened to me. I saw one of them at a board function. They said, "What did you do in my farm?" And I just said, "I didn't take them for granted. How about that?" You send them a little postcard and that's it. And you want $8,000 because you send them a little postcard. I meet them and I talk to them on their doorstep, and I don't take them for granted. And that's literally the truth of it. So this
People
idea,
are clapping. People are cheering and clapping.
well, it's true.
It's so true.
I've
Yeah.
talked to so many agents who say geographic farming doesn't work that well. Well, have you met every neighbor? And they just look at me with a blank face. What are you talking about? Yeah, until you meet all the neighbors, you have no idea whether it'll work or not. And I'm telling you, it'll absolutely work. If the turnover rate is there and you meet the neighbors, you're going to do business, baby.
Yeah, Jenny, preach. Yeah, I totally agree. Gene, this is another reason why I think that when you hear people say that a shift always causes realtors to get out of the market, they won't do what Gene is talking to you guys about right now. It's not that it's hard, but it's not you can fog a mirror and sell a house. It's work. And if you do it, you are going to get the market share from the agents that are not going to do this stuff. It's what happens. That's why there's such opportunity in a shift. Don't you think, Gene?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The opportunity is always there. Remember, everybody everybody uses our product.
Yeah.
And they can own it or they can rent it, but only homeless people don't use our product. And I'd like them to use our product, but that's a bigger problem to talk about another time. But the fact is, if everybody uses your product and everybody changes the product on a periodic basis, you can make money. Again, sometimes it's slower, sometimes it's faster. I don't care. They're all using our product. There's going to be monetization by somebody. And the people in the downturn understand, okay, I got to work harder. I got to work harder. And you know that saying, you want to work smarter, not harder? Working harder is smarter. You got to work harder.
Gene, somebody said it seems like more and more neighborhoods have no soliciting signs posted now. Have you ran into that, or any thoughts on that?
Of course, Rebecca and I wanted to go after our neighborhood where we live, a golf course community that had this cute little perky little no solicitation right up front, cute little perky thing. So we punted. We went to the homeowners association and said, we're in Florida, and you can do this for a variety of ways. We're in Florida, and we're realtors, and we have connected with the Red Cross, and the Red Cross creates hurricane preparedness kits, and they don't have the money to mail them or to deliver them. So we volunteered with them to deliver to our neighborhood. So we would like to go door to door in our neighborhood. I live here and I'm a realtor, but I'm not going to be soliciting real estate. The Red Cross will be with us with a truck with all the hurricane preparedness kits, and my team and I will go door to door and hand out hurricane preparedness kits. Are you okay if we do that? They said yes immediately. Yes, we'd love for you to do that. Okay, thank you very much. So what we did was we wore our Rivers team gear, so they knew who we were, but we didn't solicit a single thing. And one day, there were 580 homes there, and one day of working both sides of the street, it was a Saturday, handing out those hurricane preparedness kits, we got 42 leads. Oh, can I talk to you later? I'm so thankful for this, but can I talk to you later about real estate? Yes, ma'am, here's my card. It was that simple. You know what? You want people to trust you? Love on them. Give them a hurricane preparedness kit without any talk about real estate. They'll like that. They'll appreciate that. So we have given out hurricane preparedness kits. We've given out greening your home guides. And by the way, that's a Keller Williams publication, Greening Your Home. You give those out. Would you mind if we give your neighbors in this community a Greening Your Home handout? No cost, no obligation. By the way, they get coupons with it for discounts at Home Depot on appliances to improve the greening of their home. The short answer, Dana, is there is no, there's only a lack of creativity. You remember that famous pyramid that says models and creativity? And when creativity is at the base, it's topsy-turvy. But when a model is in place and then you put creativity on top of it, the purpose of creativity is to take market share. The purpose of a model is to provide great customer service using systems that can be scalable. So the minute you're ready for volume, that's where creativity comes in.
Love it. Yeah, love that so much. Okay, Jean, I wanted to make sure we have enough time because if you can, I know I see your whiteboard behind you. I don't know if you plan to use it or not. However,
you asked me to use it.
I was hoping you would, so thank you. We get questions all the time about building teams. Yeah. And I know this is a little different than the shift, but this is my favorite Jeanism of all the Jeanisms is the way that Jean is going to show you guys how to go from an individual agent to a small team, I think is what you'll do, Jean. And people try to rush this and they get it wrong. And I've been guilty of getting it wrong myself. So I'm not passing any judgment, but I was hoping that you would walk us through that because this is something we get asked for a lot and it's very valuable.
Sure, of course. So I did the original Red Book tour. I did it every year for 3 years in a row. We toured that book 3 years in a row because it was so popular. It was a big hit in the industry and people from all franchises were coming to the book tour. And a lot of people were asking questions after those 3 years about specifics, about building teams and budgets and all kinds of specific questions. And the Red Book is the Red Book. It's hundreds of pages, but it can't cover every single thing you need to know. And what I found was a lot of people didn't understand the thinking behind level 1 is a single agent doing everything. Level 2 is one admin. Level 3 is another admin. And a lot of agents didn't understand that. Another admin, wait a minute. And then level 4, you have a buyer agent. So there's 4 people at level 4, but the way it's constructed and the way it works functionally matters greatly. So this is what I'm going to go over. And this is a level 4 team. Level 4 team. It says in the Red Book, loud and clear, you got 2 kinds of business. 2 kinds of activities in your business. You have sales, and then you have admin. And in the Red Book, it shows you that the agent, and I'm using an R here for rainmaker, the agent, now this was in the Red Book 25 years ago, the agent should be at approximately 36 units in order to afford hiring a full-time admin. Now that was when the average price was $250. A lot of you, the average price is higher than that. So the truth is it's in budget a little sooner. But when you make that first hire, it's admin 1. And in the red book, if you look at it, the bubble says first assistant. And that's not anybody editorializing. The fact is, when Gary asked these agents that were net $1 million, so what was your first hire? Almost all of them said, I hired an assistant. Almost everybody said that. So they said first assistant. When you go to level 2, it drops that term assistant. It drops it. And it says that this person is the transaction manager, and the question is begged, is that the assistant who becomes the transaction manager, or is that somebody new, right? But either way, the point is still the same, that this person ultimately is a systems person. If you're going to do it right, you want to hire somebody who can build systems, somebody who has it in their background, it's on their resume, they've created systems. And then the second hire, admin 2, is called marketing. Marketing. The systems in the business are the lead gen system, the seller system, the buyer system, the financial system, and now you've got staff, the growth system. And the growth system itself is career visioning, 30, 60, 90 STO. It'll be in your financial, it'll be the payroll. So you got all that. So the system person could hire the next admin. And this is what is said in the red book, your 3 key hires from net $1 million: lead admin, lead buyer agent, lead listing agent. And the point was, if you do it right, the first admin will hire all the rest of the admin all the way up to net $1 million, right? And the buyer agent you hire will become a lead buyer agent. And in today's language, could become the sales manager over the buyer agents and the listing agents. Those are details that aren't relevant to this conversation, but the fact is you could hire leaders or not, but this works really well. When you hire admin 2, then you hire the buyer agent. Now, that's what it says in the red book. I just drew it differently, but that's what it says. Now, when you hire admin 1, you should plus 24 units to your business, 24 units. And this is not a joke. This is absolutely what should happen. If you hired an admin for $50,000 a year, in most markets, that would get you a really good quality admin. If your average price is $350 plus or minus, you're clocking 8-10 grand a sale. 5 sales a year is break even. So if you had a full-time quality person working 40 hours a week, could you sell 1 more house every 2 months and 1 week? And the answer is, of course you could. That's ridiculous to think you couldn't do that. Break even, though, is normally going to be the minimum, though, will normally be 3 times or 15 units or so. But the research that we've done for MREA 1 and 2 says it'll be 24 units. If you had a full-time person, you ought to be able to sell 2 more units a month. So that'll plus 24 or 60 a year. And then this is where it gets tricky. A lot of the rainmakers, and I'm talking to you, there's somebody in the audience, I'm talking to you. You look at this dynamic. If you've done this hire, that is a beautifully harmonious business right there. 60 units. Neither one of them work more than 40 to 50 hours a week. Customer service is back at a high level, and it is a very profitable business. At 10 grand a pop, that's $600,000 a year with a profit margin of $250,000. That's a really profitable business. But a rainmaker will look at this and go, well, I'm doing 60 units, 30 are sellers, but 30 are buyers, and the buyers are driving me insane. So I just want to go get a buyer agent. I don't need another admin. I need a buyer agent. So they do this all the time. The buyer agent should plus 36 units. This one will plus 24 units. That would be 84 a year. The 36 plus 84 would be 120 a year. But look at what happens. If you go straight to the buyer agent, you add 36 to 60 up here, you got 96 transactions. These 2 people can produce 96 transactions. What's happening to the 1 admin? They're drowning. What's happening to customer service? It's gone in the toilet. But wait, there's more. The buyer agent is giving up 50, 60% of the money to the rainmaker. And yet this one, the admin, is telling the buyer agent, You want your deals to close, you got to do the paperwork. I'm just swamped. I can't handle it. You got to take care of it. Their buyers are calling them saying, your admin won't call me back. I've called 3 times about an inspection. They won't call me back. So the buyer agent is not happy at all about what's going on. They're underserved and they're giving up half their money, and customer service is going down again, right? So often this one and this one quit and go start their own team because that one was an idiot. And that happens all the time. I'm dead serious. The truth is, Dana, there's only 2 ways to grow a business. You can grow it with sales first and then back end support, which is what a lot of agents try to do. Or you can build support first and then add the sales on top of that. And there's only one of those where the buyers, the sellers, the staff, the admin, and the agents have a good experience. And it's support first. Anytime you put sales first, you're doing things for money. And when you do things for money, you'll make bad decisions. You should do things the right way, meaning make decisions not based on money, but based on following models and customer service and caring about your people, both your admin, your salespeople, and your clients, buyers and sellers. That's how you make the most money. Anyway, so back up here. So all of this, in 90 days, you can find and hire admin 1. When you hire admin 1, they're going to be in a 30, 60, 90. And while they're in a 30, 60, 90, you can be hunting admin 2. And the day you say admin 1 is a keeper, you make the job offer to admin 2. Thoroughly vetted, you got over 100 resumes, you did the screening right, you hire that one. And then that one's going to be in a 30, 60, 90. And you could be hunting the buyer agent. So the day admin 2 is a keeper, I give the buyer agent the job offer. Now, if you're a single agent and you want to get to gross $1 million or better, this is the path, and you can build it in 270 days. And if you know you're going to do this, if you start out, think about this. I have 90 days to find admin 1. I have 180 days to find admin 2. And I have 270 days to get the buyer agent on board. So you actually have plenty of time to find all these people, plenty of time, if you know up front and create a plan. So the minimum would be 100 units a year. The maximum would be 120 a year. If you do this right, understand this. And Gary has said this forever. If you want to have a powerful big business, a net $1 million business, the way to do it is to have a powerful small business. And this is the powerful small business. And once you've built this, it literally is just, you always grow by 2. Because if you add another agent, you're going to add another 36 units. And now these 2 are going to be overloaded again. So you add another admin and another agent, and another admin and another agent. It's not complicated at all. So if you look at it, the business will be not a 50-50 seller and buyer business because of time. This is going to be 70 closed sellers from the Rainmaker, 50 closed sales from the buyer agent. The minimum would be 60 and 40, and that will be 100 to 120 units. The important thing to understand is that these people all work only 40 to 50 hours a week. They only work 40 to 50 hours a week, and they have careers worth having and lives worth living. If you push these people, and a lot of them, if they're talent, they'll push. If you try to do more, people will start giving up their life worth living. Don't do that. Don't do that. So I'll stop. Are there any questions about this?
Yes, this is so good. Okay, Stephanie said, is it a minimum requirement for your buyer's agents to close a minimum of 24 or 36?
For the buyer agents, it's got to be 36.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. The Red Book is about millionaire agents. Where's the Red Book about single agents? It's been written, only it ain't red, it's blue, literally. And it's called 36-12-3. And those of you who don't know about it, when the Red Book was on the tour, right after the 3rd year ended, there was some grumbling in the ranks because most of KW are single agents, and they were going, where's our book? Where's our book? We ought to have a book. And Gary, of course, said, that's a brilliant question. Let's do it. So they were looking at the issue with the red book, it was about money, and they drew a line in the sand at $1 million, right? But with single agents, the issue is you got to keep work-life balance. So it's about what's sustainable. So they looked at what levels of production can single agents get to and then maintain at least 5 years or longer, assuming that that is sustainability. And they discovered 30 to 40 was the zone where just over half of the people who got to 30 to 40 can do that 5 years or longer. The 40 to 50 group, it's less than half are still doing it after 5 years. So that's not sustainable for most agents. And Gary said, I want to know all about these people that are doing 30 to 40. And they did the research. The two biggest things that came out of it, Dana, is that number one, those agents were typically seller-based. I don't mean they do all sellers. I mean 50% or more of their business was sellers, not buyers. And if an agent is doing 30 sales a year and they're just 60% buyer based, that's 18 closed buyers and 12 sellers. If you flip it, same units, same money, but it's 18 closed sellers and 12 closed buyers, your work week is 20 to 25% smaller. And that is sustainability. And you have a 50% increase in listings. So you have a 50% increase in lead flow from listings. So your business is much more powerful if you're seller based. The other thing they discovered, Dana, is that single agents that were doing that did two things for 3/4 of their business. And sphere cultivation was one, and the other one was something else. Open houses, expireds, FSBOs, whatever. But they didn't try to do 5 things, 6 things. They tried to do 2 things really well, and they usually use something else as a backup. So they did sphere and Mets, and then expireds and FSBOs maybe, or they did whatever, but then they might throw in a few open houses every now and then, right? But that's it. So here's the point. A single agent has 140 to 160 tasks on their task list. And if a single agent is capable of 36 sales a year, when you join a team, look at the red book. I'm going to take away everything but 5 or 6 tasks. So if you only have to do 5 or 6 tasks, why can't you do 36 sales when a single agent can do 36 sales doing 150 tasks? It's beyond belief. It's ridiculous to not have a minimum standard of 36. It's just ridiculous not to do that.
Steph, did that help? Yes, she said yes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Yep, totally agree. Let's see, Jenny, will you unmute and ask your question, pretty please?
Does that mean it's a really complicated question?
No, it's not.
It's really easy, Jean. When you were saying with your pre-listing packet to have the charts and graphs, and then you said paperwork to fill out, are you referring simply to the listing paperwork?
No, I'm not talking
You said forms. You said
Forms.
Yeah, it's forms. Yeah. You want to use a seller concern sheet. Again, think about the insights that we have on our hands to use. Gary and Jay stood up there and showed you what was NAR's research about what did sellers want from us and what did buyers want from us. Well, sellers are not all equal. Some are concerned about this, some are concerned about that. So NAR every year does the research. They ask over 5,000 consumers of real estate services, what is it that you were most concerned about as a seller? So it creates this big word cloud, and out of that, there's 10 main concerns, and they're almost always the same main concerns. So if you simply do a seller concern sheet, list those 10 things and have them score low concern, medium concern, high concern, have a 5-step concern rating. This is what we do. You send that out ahead of time. They fill it out. You walk in. Ms. Johnson, I'm so happy to be here. Honored to represent you in the sale of your home in this beautiful neighborhood. Now, where can we sit down and go over the paperwork? Do I want to tour the house? Of course I do, but let's do the paperwork first. If we're not going to go into business together, why do we need to tour the house, right? Am I right? Or am I right? I'm right. Okay. So you sit down and the first thing you pull out is a seller concern sheet. And then it's this simple script. Most people, I've done this 6.5 years in a row as a listing specialist. Most people will have 3 out of 10 marked high concern. Mr. and Ms. Johnson, if I answer your questions about the pricing of your home, if I answer your questions about my commission, my fee, And if I answer your questions about security during the listing period, you're ready to get a sign in the yard tonight. Is that true? And they can say yes, or they can say no. If they say, well, no, I don't think so, then what else is there that I need to answer in order to get a sign in the yard tonight? Well, we're also concerned about showings. So if I answer your concerns about the price, about the commission, about the security and showings, you're ready to get a sign in the yard? Yeah, we are. Wonderful. Let's get to it. And then I just attack those things. If you go into the appointment and you know exactly what the seller needs you to answer in order to get the listing, that's all you need to talk about. You don't need to talk about anything else. Most agents walk in and they just vomit a speech that answers all kinds of stuff. If you ever see a seller looking at the watch, you are talking about stuff they don't care about.
Gene, I think agents will need to bring back out the pre-listing forms. I mean, I never learned that. I was at RE/MAX for years before KW, and I always walked into a listing totally blind. And then somebody gave me a pre-listing form, and I started using that, and I didn't go into their house until they filled out the pre-listing form. And so when I walked in, I knew if they, what they thought their home was worth and what they thought that was great about it and what they thought wasn't great about it. And I thought, man, where has this been all my life? And I think agents will have to get back to using a form like that, along with the ones that you've listed today too. And a lot of our agents have never had to compete for listings because they've never been through a shift. And so when you're competing for listings, that's a different game than somebody just calling you and saying, hey, I want to put my house on the market today. You're competing against other agents who are going to have these things when they walk in. So you've got to have them too.
Yeah. Well, every buyer and seller fills out forms, or you don't work with them. Yeah. People that don't want to fill out forms are telling you, I don't intend to hire you. So they want to know what you think so they can FSBO it, or they've got a cousin George who just got a license, and if they don't give him the listing, the family will disown him. But they want to hear what you think, the pro that you are, so that they can tell George, here's what we're going to do. I talked to a top agent. Here's what we're going to do.
Totally agree. Yep, totally agree. Man, okay. Well, we have 1 minute left and I have 4 pages of notes. So any last burning question for Gene while we have him? This has been so awesome, and I would love for you guys to show him some appreciation as well. Thank you, Diana, for being on. If you guys have any questions too about the level 4, just shoot me an email. Happy to help. We are recording. We will send out the recording. And this has just been wonderful. Thank you, Gene, so much for all your wisdom.
You're welcome. I appreciate you and what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Everybody have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time also.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.